Yes.
Ready, and
Well,
I'm
now,
waiting.
now we're live, so you
We're
don't have to
live.
wait
We're
anymore.
live.
Hi,
Hi.
hi, everybody. So this is kind of a somewhat of a big deal, right, Dana? Because this is the debut of your new office arrangement, your new
So
video background.
I hope you all like it very much. So yeah, I probably I don't know, maybe I should talk about it on my channel or something. Oh, except I have another video that I need to do first. Guys, I had more stuff off my wish list that got donated to me
Yay!
that arrived today, and
Oh,
so
wonderful.
it's here. It's actually not here in this room because I'm moving everything around, but it's in the bedroom, and I'm going to bring it in after we get done with this show and record an unboxing. Yay! But yeah, I have like my shell collection and um some of my books and my super Daffy. This was he was a Happy Meal toy, but actually I'll go ahead and show him to you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about him. So years and years and years ago, McDonald's had a Happy Meal promo in which the Looney Tunes characters had costumes. Do you remember?
I remember it. I had Super Daffy.
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
No,
I
I
had it.
guarantee.
Why was he super? Oh, no, I had a Bugs. It wasn't Bugs like Batman or something.
No, Bugs wasn't Batman.
Bugs was
Look at
Superman.
this.
Oh, let me see. So, so
Daffy
is
had a Batman costume. Bugs
so
had a
that's
Superman costume.
so you
But their
so
poses were
you
similar enough. Like Taz was the Flash.
right.
You remember Taz
So
Flash?
you put Daffy's head on Bugs's super body.
No, watch. You can make him naked right away. So you hold him and then you push his bill back.
Oh, the costumes come off. Oh,
Yeah,
that
the
okay,
costumes
yeah.
come off.
The
And
costumes
Bugs's and
come off.
Daffy's were interchangeable. I have no idea where my Batman costume, Daffy's actual costume is. But yeah, he fits in the Super Bugs costume. Because I mean, we've talked about this. Daffy was always I so identify with Daffy.
Oh, Daffy's the best. Yeah, I love
Daffy's the
Daffy.
best.
Daffy's the best Looney Tunes character for sure. Yeah.
Just and it's just he's just like and Chuck Jones talks about, Bugs, Daffy, and Elmer and says, Bugs is the one who knows exactly what's going on and how to stay in control of the situation. Elmer Fudd has no idea, is not in control of the situation at all, has no idea what's going on. Everything just happens to him, around him. He's very reactive. Daffy's in the middle. He knows what's going on. He tries to do something about it, and he is not in control of the situation. I'm like, Daffy, I get you. I
Yeah.
get you.
Oh,
So,
totally.
so he has pride of place right there.
As he so richly deserves.
Absolutely. So there he is. And so yeah, and then I moved my tiger, so tiger is still up there. And the flower arrangement actually wouldn't fit because that set of shelves is just like 2 or 3 inches higher, but the flower arrangement won't fit. So it's still on my shelf. It's actually over here. So I got my flower arrangement here is from when I was the matron of honor at my best friend's wedding, which was not anything like the movie. And let's see, you can see the mask that I made, and you can see my nutcracker. So yeah. Yes, pronoun trouble. Oh, so good. So yeah, and then I have some of the Happy Meal boxes that actually have little happy faces on it. I just thought those were cute.
Iconic.
You kind of can't see. Yeah, I've got my Cabbage Patch doll up in the way up in the corner right there. She's kind of hiding.
Oh, I see. Just like a face in the darkness.
Yeah, in the darkness. If I get some LED lights or something, I can just put up there and light that up a little bit. Maybe I'll sit her on something because she's just from the angle of it. Or maybe if I move this up a little bit, it'll change it a little bit. But yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like her lurking back there in the shadows.
Oh, and you can see up here you can see the two
oh, those are they're Coke bottles, right?
Yeah, the Coke bottles that we got at Disney World and Star Wars Land.
Yeah.
So yeah. I had fun thinking about what goes where. I still have a blank wall over there, but that's actually back where the desk was, so there's nothing on the wall there. So I haven't decided. Actually, no, I do. I know it's going to go there, but I don't have. It won't hang on on a thumbtack, which is what the rest of them are hanging on. So the painting that's up there, C'est La Vie, is it's actually hanging from a thumbtack. That's what I got. But this one, the frame will, I tried, the thumbtack will not fit through there. But this is one that I got at Dragon Con. Was it Dragon Con or was that San Diego? Don't know. 2003. Could have been either one. Could have been either one. But I think that would have been Dragon Con. And so, yeah, this was, I think, Michael Larkin.
That's awesome.
Or it might have been Matt Larkin for Dana, who has the power to attain dizzying heights. So I said, you know, which superhero do you want me to draw? And I was like, why don't you draw me as a superhero? Because as I do. So
yes, obviously that was your request.
Of course.
Obviously. What superhero do you want? Me.
Duh. So yeah. So well, I would say, how's your week been? But like we just talked on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's been fine.
Seems a little redundant.
The last 2 days have been fine. So we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life, and also
I was going to say about not marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage is what brings us together. Skip to the end, Steve.
We're going to be talking about chapters 4 and 5 of All Systems Red, the first book in the Murderbot Diaries series.
I will say, there's a little lump in the rug here. It's kind of not cool, but it is what it is. Them's the breaks. That's what happens when having decent carpeting or decent flooring, really, or actual flooring is not a priority. This is the room that doesn't have a floor. So yeah, we got some area rugs and just threw them down, but it doesn't actually cover the entire area. So they're kind of
there are some rough patches.
Yeah. Some bumps here. Right where we got 4 of them, because getting one that's like really big is more than 4 times as expensive as getting the small one. So these are, I think, 3 feet. No, it's got to be 5 feet. 4 feet by 5 feet, but so they overlap.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't. All right.
So,
Donna and Philip, it's good to see you. I'm doing okay other than the lump in the rug.
So, the story so far in All Systems Red is that
there's a murder bot.
There's a murder bot who is a security unit for an expedition that is surveying a portion of this alien planet, and their systems are kind of malfunctioning, and they're missing some data, and they're missing some sections from their maps, and they can't explain.
Not the murder bots systems, but like the groups, like their you know, their map data is missing. Like their systems are going a little bit wonky. And then in this section, I think it was in this section where the satellite feed crapped out on them while they were away from they're going on on a mission, essentially. And the satellite,
because there's another expedition on the other side of the planet, and because the expedition that we are sort of embedded with, that is like our point of view,
their map data crapped out. They contacted the other guys and they're like, "Hey, is your map data right?" They're like, "Yeah, we'll send ours to you." And then they didn't.
And they lost contact. So a few members of our group have decided to fly to the other group to see what the deal is. And
the ones who weren't nearly eaten by the giant alien worm in the first section.
Right. So there's
the ones who were almost eaten are still recovering. They have to say
the giant alien worm that they were not told about, and
they were also not included in the information.
Yeah. So as we start with chapter 4, they are on their way to the other habitat, and Murderbot prefers to just kind of be left alone. Doesn't really like its job. Doesn't really enjoy being around people.
But doesn't dislike its job, but would rather watch TV.
Would rather watch TV and would rather like do the parts of its job that it's required to do, and it doesn't want, like, the humans, when the humans when the humans found out that this murder bot has kind of a personality, and
Well, when the humans found out that this murder bot acted somewhat unusually, in the one human was not injured but was in shock,
right,
and
and
the
Murderbot,
medical
like,
feed
yeah,
told it to ignore, told it to ignore that one, and focus on the one that was physically injured. But Murderbot ignored that and talked the shell shocked human through the process of getting away from the alien worm. So when the humans noticed that on the feed, they started thinking of this construct, which is, it's not a robot and it's not a human, but it's sort of an amalgamation. It's a
right.
created being, but it does have an organic form, organics, a significant amount of organic parts. But it is constructed, not, born. And so they've started treating it like it's a person. And Murderbot is not real keen on this. Murderbot does
No,
not want buddies.
no, they're trying to like be nice and include Murderbot in things, and Murderbot does not want to be included.
Murderbot is like, no, can I just sit
Mur-
back in the cargo hold with the rest of the cargo, with the rest of the stuff? Can
yeah,
I just be stuff, please?
Murderbot wants to be left alone. Um,
Mhm.
so they're they're
Yes, to
they're
watch
on
the serials, Donna.
yeah, exactly. So they're on their way to the other habitat on the other side of the planet, and because things are kind of, unpredictable, Murderbot, even though Murderbot really, like you said, just wants to stay in the cargo hold until called upon to do some murdering, uh, Murderbot is basically a member of the crew now, and
Yeah.
is taking shifts, during the flight to make sure that everything goes smoothly and that there's not an emergency or anything. And Murderbot is not enjoying this at all. There's a scene at the beginning of chapter 4 where a couple of the crew members are trying to sort of uh, engage Murderbot in small talk, and like
No, thank you.
Murderbot is just not, yeah, just not there for it at all. And like the more they try to make up for it, the worse they make it. And finally, Dr. Mensa, who is sort of the leader of the group, is just telling them, "Look, just shut up, just shut up,
Just leave it alone.
just
Does not.
stop talking to the Murderbot." And yeah, and then the satellite malfunctions, the feed drops
And
out,
the
like
the
the
autopilot as well.
yes, well that happened earlier, didn't it?
I don't remember.
I think that
I thought
happened
it
in one
was.
of the
I
early,
thought it
but
was.
yeah, that's part of one of the malfunctions, that the vehicle that they're flying in, that they call the Hopper, is supposed to have an automatic pilot, and it kind of went out earlier, and that's odd, you know.
Mhm.
And they haven't gotten any response from the other habitat. Like there's just complete radio silence,
Dun, dun,
and
dun.
And so they finally get there, and they sort of, take a look around using their drones to kind of survey the scene. And there's no sign that anybody's there, but there's also all of their vehicles that are supposed to
Yeah,
be
there's
there
no
are
sign that
still
they've
there.
left. They're
So there's
not
no
like
sign.
out on a
Yeah,
mission or something, or
there's no sign
doing
that.
the surveying thing.
Yeah.
Ah.
So they land, and Murderbot's like, all right, so uh
I'm going in first,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm taking point because I'm a murder bot, and your people,
Squishy.
yeah, you'll just get smashed to pieces by whatever this is. So uh Murderbot goes in and discovers, surprise, surprise, that all the humans who were stationed at this habitat have been horribly killed. But also one of the
One.
one of the sec units, sort of like a murder bot who isn't a murder bot, like the same kind of thing that murder bot is. One of the sec units had also been killed, but killed apparently from a very short distance by like a tool, by a drill tool that somebody had just kind of walked up to them with it and just drilled him in the chest and killed him. And Murderbot's like, well, golly, that's odd. Uh, And as Murderbot goes through this habitat and kind of is trying to clear it of any threats, Murderbot discovers that there are, what is it, three other sec units? I think
They're
they're
supposed to have three. They ended up having five.
okay. Yeah, so Yeah. So there
So
are
so
more
yeah, I think
there are more sec units there than there were supposed to be, and
right. So yeah, I think Murderbot finds 3 more.
all of them but the one that Murderbot
Right.
found killed with the drill are alive and are extremely hostile.
Yes.
Um, and are apparently laying a trap for these humans, right?
Or
So
were anyway. Oh
we're
yeah,
planning
laying a
to,
trap
yeah,
for these humans.
for Murderbot's humans, yeah, for the humans that are
Yes.
coming from the other place, and so Murderbot kind of gets back in contact with Dr. Mensa over the radio, and they sort of lay out a plan to draw these other rogue sec units out, to make them think that they're going one place when they're actually going to another place, and then when they reveal themselves, Murderbot will
I think
come
but
in
I
and
think
will.
I think Murderbot figures out that it must have been one of the other security units that had done this because the humans are all dead.
The humans are all
And,
super dead. Yeah.
yeah, and it figures out that one of the other sec units could have gotten close, would not have been able to draw on one of the other sec units, but could have come up with a tool and then
Yes.
gutted it. And so
Right.
that's what
So
it figures
that's
has happened. So it thinks
yeah.
it's going to be up against 2 more sec units. And then it ends up a third one shows up, and it's like, what the heck? They're only supposed to have 3, and they have 4.
Exactly. So
And so
we get like one of the things that
combat.
yeah, well, yeah, that's there are sort of two major features of these 2 chapters that we read for this week. One of them is there is a lot of action,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fighting, and most of it's pretty good. Like it's
Yeah,
well written. It's clear. You can always tell what everybody's doing, and
the
Murderbot's
pace is good as well.
yeah, Murderbot's voice comes through very very clearly. So it's not you're not just having action sort of dryly described, like it's being told to you in the character's voice, which helps a lot. And yeah, it's well paced and it's pretty exciting. And there's enough exposition to sort of give it context and meaning. Like Murderbot talks about how when sec units fight each other, there's not usually a lot of strategy. They just kind of throw everything they have at the other sec unit and or at whatever the adversary is, because usually they're not
Yeah,
fighting other sec units, but they throw
because they're
whatever
not
they
they're not
have.
focused on combat. They're not DPS. They're tanks.
Right, yeah, I think, yeah, they Murderbot says like there's another thing called a combat unit that is apparently
Yes.
built specifically to fight. Sec units are not, but they're capable of doing it. And what they usually do is they just throw everything they have at whatever the target is and hope they don't get destroyed before they destroy the thing that they're fighting.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, so there's a ton of action.
255 AD. We see the question. We're getting to that because we haven't gotten to that part of the
Yeah,
explanation yet. So
so there's a ton of action, and then there is also a another sort of layer added to the mystery of who's responsible for this, because there are more sec units than there should be.
mm-hmm.
You know, so where'd they come from? uh, and the sec units, and it's not just that these new sec units showed up, but the other sec units that were supposed to be here were reprogrammed, were
Yes,
they were given like updates to their software that turned them heel
made them attack. They
basically.
helped attack the humans.
Yeah,
Some of them were attacked by these sec units.
yeah, they turned on their own group, and so it's, well, and who's responsible for that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I
So
think one of the other things is so Murderbot finds the first destroyed sec unit, and then sees somebody who's sees one of the victims, one of the humans, the dead humans, and realizes that the position is wrong and that Murderbot's walking into a trap. So it
right,
goes
that's
into
right.
the trap. I mean, because what is it going to have the humans go? No, Murderbot goes into the trap knowing that it's walking into a trap, and so it fights. The other 2 sec units that have apparently something's happened to them and they've gone rogue, and
Right.
informs Mensa. But then a third sec unit shows up that Murderbot is not expecting, because they're supposed to have 3 sec units. And this one also attacks Murderbot. I don't remember if it had already defeated the other 2 or what, but so it goes through the sec unit and Murderbot takes this one down, but gets jabbed Like, I think this is the third one is the one that gets him. That gets
Yes.
and then Murderbot is not doing well. And is saying to Mensa, okay, you know, they have more sec units. We're not doing great. And then another one shows up. Murderbot's like, oh crap.
This is
But
really
then all of
bad.
a sudden, the sec unit stops and it keels over and the drill comes through its chest and it's Dr. Mensa behind
Right.
the sec unit. Dr. Mensa took out the other security unit.
And the sec unit was that attacked and temporarily subdued Murderbot was attempting to override Murderbot's programming.
Yes, Murderbot does
well.
wake up and they're
Yeah.
trying to and they're trying to reprogram Murderbot.
Yeah.
And so when they get away, Murderbot tells the crew, Murderbot recognizes that there's programming that's trying to override its own and says, you know, you have to shut me down. You got to kill me.
Right.
And Murderbot takes, I don't know if it takes a gun from somebody else or whatever, but shoots itself through the chest to shut it down. And that's like, I think that's the end of the chapter.
That's the end of the chapter. That's the hook at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
But, of course, spoiler alert, that is not the end of Murderbot.
Because there's more book and more
Because
series.
because we're halfway through the book. They're not going to kill off the protagonist / narrator halfway through the book.
Yeah, Phil. Okay, so Philip got the 255 AD's question exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. They got to the 2 sec units that were out on patrol duty, and then they sent one of those sec units in to take out the other sec unit because they would be familiar. You know, that they would have the right uniform and stuff like that. I guess they could have just changed clothes, but they just sent one of those in. And that was one. And then they set the trap for the other, you know, the other group of humans.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Y'all remember in details. I don't know if you've got the book right there with you, but, you know, just picking up this and that. And yeah, bam. Very exciting, you know, big flashy end of the chapter.
Yeah. Chapter 4 is very action packed.
Yeah. And a good, like, oh, you know, Murderbot's not dead, but just shoots itself.
But it's like, dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So chapter 5 opens and Murderbot is still alive and is waking
Murderbot
up.
realizes that it's not dead. It's like, oh shit, oh no, oh no. Oops, wait, I'm on your channel, so it's okay.
Yeah, you can cuss as much as you want.
Sorry, Sarah.
I'm not I mean, you know, I'm not gonna fire you.
I know, but like if somebody sees and yells and fusses and it's, you know, setting a bad example, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so Murderbot finds out that it's still alive and is like, oh no, what about my I'm not reprogrammed. I'm not okay, I'm still me. So
yeah, one of the humans is able to remove the
tick.
I don't know, the jump.
That's like what I was like, it's like a tick. It's like,
yeah, it's something that they stick on Murderbot's neck. It's like a jump drive or something like that. They just slam into the neck and it's supposed to reprogram. But that's all removed and taken care of. But unfortunately for our hero Murderbot, or not super unfortunate, but just it's the kind of thing that Murderbot would prefer nobody else know. They find out that
the governor module has been hacked.
Murderbot has hacked its governor module.
And Murderbot has been rogue this entire time.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun!
And now that's a thing. Because now the humans are like, well, that means that we can't control it and it could kill us at any time. This is bad. We need to shut it down. But then other humans are like, well, no, don't you see? If it could have killed us at any time and didn't, then that's good. It means it doesn't want to kill us. So it's our friend. And they kind of argue about this back and forth a little bit.
And then Murderbot has a great little, and Murderbot is trying to get them to trust it because everything else is trying to kill them. And it's like, look, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm your only hope.
Right. Which may be among the serials that Murderbot has watched. We don't know.
Murderbot's got more sense than that. Murderbot watches good serials. Okay.
Wow. So like even old school Star Wars isn't good enough for you anymore?
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, when you're talking about serials, I'm thinking like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Well, but I mean but you know, Star Wars, like proper original first 3 movies, Star Wars. I mean, it's a
serial.
It's an homage to serials, you know. It is you know, it sort of is an updating and a reinterpretation of the aesthetic of serials in a sense.
Huh? No, that's wow. we can have a discussion on that later. That is off topic. And I think you're very wrong about that.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, George Lucas has specifically cited movie serials as one of the major inspirations. But go ahead, think whatever you want.
Movies that happened to be serials. Pulp adventure style movies, which happened to be serials, not the fact that they are serials. So you know
Okay.
where you can put that.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway,
We'll table that discussion and we'll continue with Murderbot.
yes.
So,
Speaking of
but
being,
yes, indeed, yes. So they're kind of trying to figure out what to do with Murderbot, if they can trust Murderbot, etc.,
actually,
etc.
55 AD, I think we're thinking it was Grethen. And specifically, I noticed it this time because this is my second time through.
Yeah, I
Now that
think
I'm
it is
reading this.
Girthin. Yeah.
And Grethen is the augmented human. I thought about
Yeah,
that.
I
And
think so. Yes, yes.
I think some of it's coincidental because Grethen's the one who figured it out. And so Grethen's like, I think mostly it's because Grethen figured out it's been rogue this entire time, and I don't know how I feel about that. And everybody else is like, they're not the ones who realized it, they're the ones who are having it told to them, so it's a different experience for them.
Well, and
um
Girthin is also the one who tells everybody else about a previous mission that Murderbot was on,
yes,
where 50, what is it, 57 people died, and Girthin's like,
and
it killed 57 people on its
yeah,
last mission, and
and
then
let's be
Murderbot is
clear,
like, I didn't kill
Murderbot
them.
did kill them.
Well, but not
And,
like, but not because it was evil. Like, it explains, you know,
and
like,
Girthin points out that's what it believes, that's the story it tells itself.
right, because
But given that
Murderbot's version is that it malfunctioned, and the malfunction caused it to kill those humans, and it malfunctioned because it's, the company that
uses
builds it
cheap products, yeah.
uses cheap parts, and that's what happened, and that in fact that is why it hacked its governor module, so that sort of thing wouldn't happen again.
Yeah, and Murderbot
And
admits
yeah,
to like the reader that it's not really sure. I think before that it wasn't really sure that was why, but that makes the best narrative.
yeah, well, yeah. I have the quote right here. Murderbot says, "I think that's what happened. The only thing I know for certain is that it didn't happen after I hacked the
Mm-hmm.
module." And it makes a better story that way. I watch enough
Yes.
serials to know how a story like that should go. So
Yeah. So I'm sticking. That's my story, and I'm sticking
that's
with
my
it.
story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah. So, yeah, and Girthin also reveals, because someone asks Murderbot, "What's your name?" And Murderbot's like, "What are you talking about?" And Girthin says, "It calls itself Murderbot." Like Girthin is really trying to be like, we shouldn't be friends with it. It's a bad,
It's
it's
not.
going to
This is not safe. Well,
it's
Griffin
going
is
to kill
also
us. Yeah,
continuing to think about Murderbot as an it, which is what Murderbot wants.
that's true.
Okay, it's thinking about this is a thing. It's not working. It's not working properly. It's a thing that's not working properly. It should be fixed so that it'll work properly. And and it's interesting because the narrative doesn't really, not just doesn't lampshade it, but really doesn't address that. Girthin is responding to Murderbot the way that Murderbot has up to this point implied that it wants to be thought of as an object,
Yes,
in this
as
case
an
an
object.
object that is not working as originally planned. And
Yeah.
but everybody else is like, but clearly it doesn't want to hurt us. Girthin's like, that's nice, but it's not supposed to want anything. Like when they were, well, how do you feel about this? What do you want? And Murderbot just like, just leave me alone.
Stop
I don't
asking.
want things.
Just leave me alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and Murderbot is trying to convince Girthin and the other humans, um, that it's not Murderbot that they should be worried about. It's their
Mm-hmm.
computer system, hub system, and whoever is
And whoever's
puppeteering
doing all this.
whoever is behind these malfunctions. Because Murderbot is saying, look, hub system is like the reason
Hub
you were
system doesn't
able,
want you to trust me.
yeah,
It's part of the plan.
the reason you were able to find out about my governor module and the 57 people I killed back then, and like, is because hub system, or whoever is controlling hub system, wants you to get rid of me, Because I'm trying to save you.
I'm trying to protect you because that's my job.
You dipshit humans. Like you're being manipulated to turn
And they're
against
like,
me.
why should we believe you? And Murderbot leaps off the table, grabs Girthan, pins him against the wall, and says, because when Hub System told you that I was immobilized, it lied to you.
Yeah.
And the narrative says that Girthan's face got really red, though not as red as it would have been if I'd squeezed.
Right.
Just
Yep.
like, oh, even when Murderbot is just like grumpy, the snark is just always there. There's that little level of sass. I could have just popped your head like a pimple. Exactly. See, that's exactly 255 AD. I was thinking like a drunk driver. If a drunk driver like hit somebody with a car, like the drunk driver gets charged, and the car might be impounded as evidence, but like it can be sold to somebody else, and just like the fender damage can be just wash the blood off and give it a new fender. And if there's a little bump there, it's fine. The car is fine. If it's once it's repaired, it's okay. It's not the car's fault. So yeah, 250, I think it very much shows that the company does not think of the constructs as humans. And I think
Right.
somebody mentioned, I think in the last chat, that as the series goes on, we see that more clearly. Like this particular group of humans is from an area where constructs are thought of differently, or maybe I don't know if they don't have constructs typically. That might have been part of why they were resistant to having one. I'm not 100% sure. I think that was from the last chat, and it's not actually in this book. I do remember that this book says that they didn't want to have a construct along. That Mensa was like, I don't want a sec unit.
Yeah. Well, and Murderbot mentioned in one of the first chapters, I think in the first chapter, like that these humans are not typical to its experience.
Yeah, they
like
get along, which is kind of weird.
they get along with each other better. They're treating Murderbot more like a person than like an object, and
like
in its
a
experience,
rock'em sock'em robot.
yeah, and like in its experience, this is unusual. So they decide first the habitats have like an emergency beacon that they can activate in the case of something like this that will alert the company to come over and pick them up ahead of schedule. So at first the plan is, well, first of all, they say, well, did the other habitat activate their beacon? And they say, no, it was destroyed. Okay. So what about activating our beacon? And they think, that's a plan for a little bit. And then they realize, oh, no, wait, our beacon has been destroyed too. So we can't do that. So then the plan is, let's just leave. Let's go somewhere else.
But also they know that, I mean, now that they've, because Murderbot has like, I think they rehacked Hub System as well.
Yeah.
But if since whoever is doing this has been monitoring them through Hub System, they know. And especially since they were, they were monitoring, surely they were monitoring the other Hub System's feeds when they were not destroyed in the mission to go and check on Deltfall. Whoever it is going to know, and they're going to come there to wipe them out.
Right. They know they have reason to believe that. Yeah, they have
leave the area just so that they, so they're not a sitting target.
So they come up with a plan to evacuate, and Murderbot is a little worried because once they leave the habitat, the cubicle that Murderbot returns to get repairs and to sort of regenerate won't be available. So if they're out, on the run and they get attacked again and Murderbot is seriously damaged, it's going to have
damage going to stick.
Yeah, it's going to have to carry that damage for a while because there's no option to once they get away to recharge. Yeah, so that's a concern. And again, it's a good sort of storytelling turn to kind of up the drama a little bit. It's
up
no fun
stakes,
to have. It's no fun to have a protagonist who is just as long as they can make it back to their bedroom, they'll be fine. So they get ready to go, and Murderbot has some remote control drones that it can sort of dispatch and to if the enemy comes to kind of throw them off the scent or to make them think they went one way when they went the other way. And the chapter ends with them all evacuating. And at the end of the chapter, it says, you know, let me find the exact line. It says, as we flew curving away to the distant mountains, nothing followed us. So,
Dun dun dun.
nothing yet, that is.
I know. Yeah. Really, really nice, strong chapter endings.
Yeah, it's, well, like I told you when we talked about it the other day, I like that they're sort of spooling out the mystery nicely. Like,
Mhm.
I'm still on the hook for that. I'm still curious to see like what's this all about? You know, who is doing this? Why?
Why?
You know, so
Follow the
that.
money. Who
Yes,
profits from this? Because profit, I mean, is a big um theme here. You know, when Murderbot is talking about how it's treated and you know why, a lot of that comes down to what's most profitable.
right. I'm waiting for the shocking turn when one of them pulls a gun and turns on the rest of the group, and then and then someone else goes, you know, whoever it is, so and so, I should have known it was you. And then the person who just was revealed to be evil goes, I'm surprised you didn't figure it out sooner. You know, like I'm waiting for that like classic,
That
you know,
moment.
moment of betrayal. Um, and if indeed that is the way it goes, I'm curious as to who that will be.
So
You know,
do you have any ideas or
no, I
any?
have. I mean, the obvious one is Girthin, so probably not Girthin, but you know,
But
I
the
honestly
others,
have no idea.
like at this point, because Girthin's the one who figured all that out, and also Girthin is the augmented human. Girthin stands out a little bit to me, and Mensa has since the beginning. But
I
at
was
this
gonna
point in
say,
the story, having read it the second time, I still couldn't tell you which one. I think it's the V is the one that got chomped by the monster at the beginning.
no, I think Bardwaj got chomped, didn't they? Or didn't she? Or was Bardwaj the
Okay,
one
there
who
you
wasn't
go.
chomped but
That's how much
was
they're all sort of
traumatized?
blending together.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, if there is one of the thing, well, first of all, let me just say, I'm not I'm not trying to guess what happens next. Like, I'm intrigued and
Mhm.
interested in what happens next, but I'm not trying to guess because that's just usually not how I read or
Yeah.
watch things. Like, I'm not constantly trying. I bet this happens next. Like, I usually don't do that. If I had to guess, and on the assumption that there is like a traitor in the group or that
Mhm.
somebody is going to betray somebody, assuming that that is part of what happens next, my guess would be Mensa because she's just there's been nothing but good things about her for the entire
Yeah.
story. And it's like, okay, that maybe there's another
And she's
shoe to
also
drop there.
really smart.
Really smart.
Murderbot
Yeah.
has said, you know, wow, she's kind of like you know this intrepid adventurer from one of the serials.
Yeah. And seems to have Murderbot's confidence more so than anyone else in the group. So that would be the obvious. If you're going to have a character be revealed as a traitor, that's to me that's the obvious one. But I honestly don't know, and I'm not like
And
I'm not
also
trying
it
to
makes a
guess.
little bit more sense because, like I said, Mence is the one who has stood out, the one that you know remember you who know who it is. Whereas, okay, so Philip says Volsky was the one who was in shock,
Yeah,
and
okay.
Bardwaj was the one who got
Bardwaj, yeah.
chopped.
And Talon mentions in the chat, we did gloss over this part when they were when they were sort of uh talking with slash interrogating Murderbot.
Yes, we
Um
loved that.
they draw it out
And
by getting it
Girthin's
to
like,
talk about the
well, what has it been
cereal.
doing all this time? And Girthin's like, well, it downloaded a bunch of serials. It's probably some sort of, you know, it's encoding information in them. It wouldn't have been watching them.
It can't possibly have been just watching TV this whole time.
And the one says, you know, I don't remember which one it was, but one of the others says, yeah, that one about the woman who, you know, killed her husband after they'd just gotten married, and Murderbot goes, that's a lie. She didn't
Yeah.
kill him. Everybody
She
can tell
didn't
that.
kill her husband.
Everyone knows
Yeah.
that. And she goes, it's watching them.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
That is a really
fan
good moment.
theories. Murderbot has fan theories. I love that
That's a really good moment.
so much.
But yeah, but so of
And
the
Talon, I also love I love like the soap binger it is.
yeah, totally, because that's literally all it wants to do.
It's
Like
just sit around and watch soaps.
left
Yeah.
to its own devices, it just wants to just sit there and watch TV, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Um,
It's one of the reasons we love it so much,
of
because
course,
it's
who?
so
Yeah,
relatable. Although ironically, that's not something I enjoy doing. I just Murderbot's smarter than I am.
but you can relate to the general sort of
Just leave me alone and
desire.
let me
Yeah.
do something by myself.
Let
Have
yeah let leave me alone and let me do my thing.
yeah.
And if you need me, come and get me. If you don't need me, leave me alone.
I'm on call, not on duty.
I'm
The
on calling.
difference.
Very good. Yes, very good. Don't just pop in for a chit chat. Okay, I'm doing shit.
Yeah.
um,
I am not paid enough for that.
no,
Actually,
indeed,
I'm not paid at all, but
I'm not paid
you
at
didn't
all. If you want to
pay
get technical
enough
about it,
for
yeah.
that.
So of the things that, I mean, they're not necessarily major flaws at this point, because like overall, I like it quite a bit so far. But if I'm to start thinking about things that maybe aren't working quite as well as the stuff that is working, you kind of mentioned it a minute ago. The supporting characters really blend together. I really don't. I mean, other than Mensa and in these chapters, Gurathan, because Gurathan comes across strongly
Yeah.
as being sort of the antagonist to Murderbot. But other than that, everybody, all the humans are just kind of a mush. Like, I mean, I know a couple of them are in relationships with each other. I can't off the top of my head remember who.
Yeah. And
Um,
but I mean, the only reason we know that is because Murderbot has told us, like,
right?
da da da
Yes,
da da da
we
da.
see
You know,
everything through
Murderbot.
Murderbot's point of view. Yeah.
And but I think, see, that's part of why I don't really have a problem with it, is because they all kind of blend together. For Murderbot is just like, these are the humans that I'm supposed to protect. Mensa's pretty cool. The rest of them are just like blah blah blah, whatever. They don't cause trouble with each other. They don't cause trouble for me. That's cool. I'm just gonna sit here and watch my soaps. We're good. And so for me, the fact that they blend together, it's not a bug. It's a feature. You
Well, yeah,
know.
and also, as I think we mentioned this in the last show, and if not, we talked about it privately with each other. Um, you probably shouldn't get too attached to all of these characters either, because I mean, one of the practical reasons to have a
A
large,
large
somewhat
cast.
nondescript supporting cast in a story like this is not everybody's going to make it. So,
Yep.
that's part of it too. And yeah, you're right. It's a bug, it's a feature, not a bug. It's part of the the construction of stories like this.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily something I hold against it, but I do notice that, oh, which one is like, which one is Valescu? Oh,
Which
sure,
one's
whatever.
that?
Yeah. And also I know I mentioned this to you when we were talking about it a couple of days ago. The everything's a system. That kind of the sort of technical jargon stuff really wears thin with me. Like, oh, it's sex system. Have you checked med system? What about hubs? Everything's a system, and it's just, and I realize it
Well,
makes
but they,
sense
they don't they don't
because
have they don't have transport system. They have the
they
hopper.
they have the hop. That's true,
And I
but
like that as a name for a vehicle.
oh, me too. I think,
I
yeah,
just like I picture like this bug-like thing. Like, it's got legs so that it can, it's ambulatory on the terrain, but it's also, obviously also it can fly. So I think of it as really an all-terrain and flight. It's essentially, it's like a box that has legs, but also like a propulsion that can transform to a propulsion system to go through water, and it will also fly. So
yeah.
really any sort of terrain.
Well, and it sounds like the kind of nickname that like a military vehicle would have. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, it's
but it's not like a nickname for this vehicle. It's a nickname for like this type of vehicle.
this type of vehicle, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's the same thing, uh calling a helicopter a chopper. You know what I mean? It's that
yeah,
kind of thing. It's like there I'm sure there is a technical name for it, but they don't call it that because there's a nickname for it, and that's what it's known by. And it feels like that kind of thing. So I do like that.
yeah.
You know.
And I think this is one of the things that I said to you, because you brought up the technical jargon earlier, and I was like, it doesn't feel jargony to me. The hub system, med system, and I like it because it uses like the word units. So you have hub system, sex system, and med system, but then Mensa also starts referring to Murderbot as sec unit. Like she
Yes.
uses that
Uses
as
that as
a
a name.
name for
Yeah.
it. Yes. Because it doesn't have a unit, and she decides she's not going to call it Murderbot, especially since Murderbot says that was supposed to be private.
That's true. Yes.
Murderbot is not cool about this. So
Being called
Mensa
Murderbot. Yeah.
Mensa doesn't start calling Murderbot, but chooses to use sec unit as a name. Not as much. I didn't get that vibe for it. What I felt like was, you have sec system, and then this is a sec unit. So like, the word parts are sort of morphemes that can be fit together in different ways, and you still get an idea of what they are. And so I like not having a separate name for, like calling the instead of calling it a hub system, calling it, your environmental overlay, and your the medical the medical interfusion or something like that, where it's like you have to remember this one for this, that one for that. Instead, we have like a little morpheme, and then they're like Legos. They're not interchangeable, but they're interlockable, and that helped me understand it and made it feel less jargony than I think it otherwise would have. I think some of the jargon you can't get around because just of the technical nature, because of the technical nature of the plot. Like literally they're being taken over by, this information
Yeah.
being
I mean, I guess some of it is unavoidable. I think part of the problem is it isn't just that I find it a little jargony. It's that it's very exposition-y. It's like, and like you said, it's very technical. So it's like the bad guys did this, and here's technically, and there's a certain amount of that given the story that is being told, you can't really avoid.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly fun to read. A lot of it comes across like reading a Star Trek novel where the technobabble is described in detail for a couple of pages. And it's like, all right, let's just get past this part and get back
Yeah.
to the interesting stuff,
And I will say, I think I skimmed some of that the first time through, because in reading it the second time through, I picked up, I'm like, oh, that's what's happening there. Oh, that's what's happening there. Like it stuck better because I was probably more familiar with the language, but also sort of I know where it's going. So I'm able to pick up on, oh, that's what that means. So,
yeah.
hey,
Simiolog.
That's okay.
Yeah,
we're kind of wrapping up the plot discussion, but
we're almost done talking. But yeah, we're still going to be going for a little while probably. But 255 AD, yeah, I think it probably would make a good movie. Yeah, I mean, it's
depending who's in charge and who's involved.
Yes, I mean, obviously, but yeah, I mean, in the hands of a solid director who can do action and can and can
good characterization. Good characterization.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the source material that I mean, I obviously I've only read up to this point that we're discussing, so I haven't read the entire book or certainly any of the later books, but so far, like if I were a Hollywood producer and I worked for a studio that did this kind of thing, and I thought that I could get a project like this off the ground, if I had read this book, I would certainly be looking at optioning it for sure. I mean, I think the potential for a really solid sci-fi movie here. Absolutely. Yeah.
Don, I don't think that's necessary. I really don't. I mean, I think it's not a long novel, but I think there's enough to fill 90 minutes.
Absolutely. I think just based on what we've read so far and sort of the pace of it, I think by the time we get to the end of this book, I'll probably say, no, this would be like the perfect amount of plot for a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
Which is the perfect length for a movie. Like, 90 minutes is like, oh, perfect. Not to say that there haven't been countless brilliant films that have been way, way longer than that, but in my platonic ideal of a movie, it's like, no, 90 minutes is just about, what I would aim for. But Simiolog mentioned it's, I mean, let's face it, if this gets adapted as anything, it's probably going to be like a streaming series.
Oh, yeah,
because
and
because
but
because there are multiple books.
right, but also, I mean, I think that that works especially well because Murderbot would approve.
Indeed, it'll be a serial. It'll
It'll
be
be
a
a serial,
serial.
exactly. It would be serialized. Murderbot would be so happy with that.
And so the last scene of the last episode should be like a pullback from a TV, and Murderbot is sitting there watching its own show. And then after it ends, Murderbot just turns directly to the camera and is just like, "Life's weird, huh?"
Good question, 255 AD. What do you think, Steve?
No, I think that's the value of. I think that's why Murderbot is
No, no, no,
the.
no. In terms of, we were just talking about adapting it for like a serial, a television show, or streaming show or a movie. So would you just do it with voiceover or what?
I think you would have to, yeah.
Okay.
Just you would have to tell it from. Actually, what I would do. Um, there's a movie that came out, I guess, probably 6 or 7 years ago, probably even longer now, um,
We're
called
getting old,
Hardcore
Steve.
called Hardcore Henry. That is an action movie that is shot entirely from the point of view of the main character, where you see everything through his eyes. So it's all like subjective camera, right? And Henry is kind of a murder bot like character. Like he was originally a human, but he has since been augmented with all these different things. And he has no memory of who he was before, and he sort of goes on this adventure and kind of discovers who he is and who he used to be, and gets involved in this, nefarious plot, blah blah blah. And it's not like what I would call a great movie, but it's a fun movie. And the fact that it's shot entirely from the main character's point of view, like everything you see is through the main character's eyes, um, that's really interesting. And I mean, there are a lot of times when it becomes kind of gimmicky, but there are also times where it's used in ways that are very clever. And I would look at something like that for this, because Murderbot is very, very solidly the point of view character. We have not had a single scene not from Murderbot's point of view. Murderbot is the first person narrator, so I would at least try to do it that way. It might not work, you know what I mean? I might get so far into the development and realize, oh shit, this doesn't work this way. But my initial idea would be to do something like that, where it's like we are seeing what Murderbot sees,
Yeah.
and we can hear Murderbot's voice, in its head through as a kind of narration. Now you'd have to be really careful when you write that, not to overuse it, because I wouldn't
Yes.
want there to be like just continue. I wouldn't want it to basically be a voiceover of Murderbot reading the book out loud. That wouldn't work. You'd have to be very judicious as to which
What
parts
gets
of the
kept
book.
and what's
Yeah,
just shown.
but I do think you would use
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. That's my very general idea, having literally just thought about it 10 seconds ago. That would be the
But it
starting
was
point.
it was an
But yeah,
interesting thing to think about. Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you.
But yeah, you would have to be very careful, because voiceover is one of those things that can be used wrong and overused incredibly easily. Um, there are some examples of voiceover being used splendidly to great effect, and there are probably 100 times more examples of voiceover being used awfully to the point where it ruins what might otherwise be a good movie. You know, so yeah, Talon. That's a good description. Hardcore Henry is a first person shooter without the controller. Yeah, and the times when it to me, the times when it's the least entertaining are the times when it feels like, oh, I'm just watching a video game. But there are other times when it doesn't feel that way, but the first person perspective really works for it. So it's a very interesting movie, and that will be kind of my starting point for something like this. 255
I
BD.
think
That is a really good question.
I think I would I think I would CGI Murderbot, and I would have an open casting call. And then I would just like I wouldn't I wouldn't look at the person. I would, I would make sure like it would be done remotely or like turned around, and we would just be listening to the voice,
Find the right actor, regardless of
regardless of
yeah
gender.
gender. Yeah, that's a good way. And don't have any preconceptions like I want a woman or I want a man for this. Just be like, we're looking at everybody. and whoever speaks to us and sounds like Murderbot is who's going to get the job.
Yeah, but although I would probably want someone with a relatively sort of in-betweenish voice, so that it wouldn't be clear to the audience, so that the audience wouldn't hear the voice and think, oh, Murderbot is female, or oh, Murderbot is male. Like, I definitely wouldn't want a very high-pitched voice or a very deep voice. So I would be absolutely too fit. I mean, because um trying to think what, sort of, because Murderbot describes itself as I have generic human features.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what Talon says about you could do like a heads up display element, that would be another thing that I would want to use very judiciously. That would be something where I would not want to use that as frequently on screen as a being like Murderbot would actually have it. You know what I mean? Like, if you imagine that this is like a real thing,
I
you
would
would think the
no,
heads
no,
up
I'm
display
gonna
would be
disagree
there.
with you there. I would have it on screen like the whole time.
Yeah,
But have it
I definitely.
really, really
Go ahead.
tiny, just sort of like along the edges, just really
Mm,
tiny feeds. But sometimes, essentially, when we want to highlight it, have Murderbot, like, have it focus in, pull it up large, and have Murderbot notice something when it's pointing something out to the rest of the crew to talk about the feed. Does that make sense? So it's always
yeah, that's
there
better
to
than,
to
yeah.
the extent that I think, so that the audience kind of gets used to it being there and kind of normalizes it the
Yeah.
way that, I mean, for Murderbot, that's normal. That's part of its perspective.
Have
And
like a
especially
little,
since we're going
yeah,
with, mhm,
like a little
I think
toolbar down in the corner that
I was
kind of, yeah.
possible that something like that, but I was thinking like just a little scroll, like, I mean, teeny tiny text on the sides, probably just both sides, just, kind of
Nah,
like
I wouldn't like
when
that.
you
I
watch
wouldn't like that.
the news, how there's the banner down there,
Yeah,
and
but I
like
wouldn't. No,
that I wouldn't want it to be that intrusive.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that would be my concern. I wouldn't want anything to be moving. I would want it to be like have like icons or like a toolbar kind of thing or something off to one side or one corner that can be like activated and highlighted, and maybe things can come up, when needed or whatever. But I wouldn't want there to be like stuff moving on screen other than what is actually happening in the scene. That would be too gimmicky for me, and the movie would be gimmicky already because of the first person perspective. And
yeah.
I would want to I would want to be very careful and to put a lot of thought into how we can do this and make it as artful as possible while also remaining true to the concept. I feel like there would have to be a lot of creative meetings, like just about the aesthetic of
Hmm.
the movie before we even get to the point of how casting and actually shooting it and doing post production. It would have to be like, okay, seriously, are we going to have like a heads up display? What's that going to look like? How are we going to handle these transitions from different feeds? How are we going to handle the voice and the voiceover and things like that? You know what I mean? I would really want to have a very, very solid idea on what all of that would look like and feel like, and be satisfied that it would not seem gimmicky and it would not seem like a video game uh, before we really, really got into it.
Yeah, I feel I would definitely want it to be less intrusive than the Tom Cruise one that I used with Julius Caesar. With they can see the three kids can see the future. They see the
Oh,
murders.
Minority Report. Yeah.
Minority Report. So like, yeah, where they can kind of pinch and zoom and swipe and stuff.
Yes, right,
But
right.
now the key is that works for that movie because it's not all the time.
Exactly. It's just like a thing that they use. Yeah.
Right. But then there are, like, when he goes to like shopping district, there's other augmented reality type stuff just in the wider world.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is it increases the rewatchability. Like, you can pay attention, you can watch it again and pay attention to what's going on. And all of that is its own thing, which sort of deepens the connection to the world. And I think that there should be something going on in the feed which is, it's going to be minor enough that somebody seeing it for the first time is just like, oh, that's feet, and they sort of get subsumed into Murderbot's perspective, that this is what is normal for Murderbot, and this is how I'm seeing the story now. And then but I think going back through it, I think people who really connect with the story can go back through and be like, oh, here's what's going on in the feed here, and Murderbot notices this, but also there's this thing, and they don't really understand that, because like when we I mentioned the I didn't notice the autopilot going out.
Right.
I noticed it this time through the story. I noticed it. I'm like, oh, that's not an accident. That's part
That's
of
like an early clue.
But
Yeah.
we hadn't gotten to that yet. And so,
Right.
but those sorts of things we could do with the feed, and when Murderbot notices something versus when they don't, and it's there. So.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I feel like if this was something that we were, if we were movie people and we were developing this for like a movie or a TV series or a streaming series, like this would be a big part of pre-production.
Yeah.
Of,
I'd just be like, Steve,
yeah.
you're wrong. You're wrong.
Well, but the thing is, the nice thing about it would be, eventually we would get to a point where we could have like mock-ups of, I would come up with an idea, you would come up with an idea, other people, like I'm sure there would be an actual graphics department,
we have a board.
that would be like, yeah. And we'd be like, okay, let's look at these options. And hopefully once they were actually, produced in some fashion that everybody could see them, we could come to some sort of consensus.
Yeah.
And say, okay, this is the best way to do it.
This would be a fun thing to make into a movie or some sort of movie or television like media. I think it would be a lot of fun to do.
But yeah, I mean, I think it definitely could work as that. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, 255 AD, I think if I was going to lean any direction, I think I would lean feminine, because I think that Murderbot being a security construct, it predisposes us to think of it as male.
Yes.
And so I think leaning feminine pushes back against that, but I don't want to lean too far feminine, because I don't I don't want people thinking of Murderbot as female either, because I also noticed that I think today also, and I think in the last time, that a couple people referred, just a couple of times people referred to Murderbot as he.
Yeah.
And it's not a boy, and it's not a girl. So one of the things I've been doing recently is Duolingo.
Yeah, right.
And I had not, it just literally had not occurred to me. Haitian Creole, third person singular pronoun, Lee.
Oh, really? I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah. It's just Lee.
Lee.
Him, her, it, all of it. It's Lee.
Wow. That covers everything.
Covers everything.
It's
and there's the thing is, and it's interesting with Duolingo, because it'll, when they give you a sentence in Haitian Creole and you have to translate it to English, and you've got the word bank there, sometimes I see exactly 255, and it makes me wonder if that, it's because you listened to the audiobook and that influenced your perception of the character. So, yeah. I have to think about, and I read it and I'm thinking, okay, this means, he gave his daughter, something like that. Now, daughter is a feminine, daughter and son are different words. Tifi and Tigason, I think. I don't know off the top of my head. When I see it, when I'm in the vibe, I've got it. But Ligendiri, he has rice, and then I'm like, she. I have to think about it. I'm like, okay, because I'm just like, this person has rice. They have rice, but it's not they. Actually, is it they? Oh man, off the top of my head, just going from thinking in English to try to do it, but it's hard. And so it's just, and then also having it, referring to a person as it in English is just it's incredibly insulting.
It's uncomfortable for most of us. Yeah, it's like, is that okay? We should.
That's not cool. But when there's just the one pronoun, totally doesn't matter. It's limem.
Everybody's all the same.
It's so interesting. Talon, yeah. Very, very direct, very, both precise and clear. This is what I mean. This is what it is. Enough chit chat. No, just conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned in our last show, I mentioned the character Isaac from the Orville. And Isaac is kind of like that too. Like Isaac is a robot and doesn't have emotions and speaks very matter-of-factly and very efficiently, and has like a pleasant sounding voice, but is very sort of, here's what's happening, here's what I'm doing, here's the situation, you ask
which
me what I
again
think of something, here's what I think.
Is something that we associate more with male characters than with female characters. The one, yes. What came to mind, what I was, sort of wheeling my fingers about was, I can't remember the character's name, Seth Green's character in Buffy.
Oh, the werewolf guy.
Yeah, werewolf guy. What's his name?
I can't think of his name, but I know he was the werewolf.
But do you know the line I'm referring to?
Not off the top of my head.
Sometimes we're laconic. I think he says it to Angel, who also is rather pithy.
Yes.
But Werewolf Boy even more so.
That is a good.
They're not particularly chatty, and again,
there's not a lot to say.
We think of women as gossipy and conversational and more attuned to thoughts and feelings. So I think pushing back on that by having definitely having not a clearly masculine voice, but a voice with definitely some female intonation would be helpful to push back against that. Yet not thinking of Murderbot necessarily as clearly female.
Yeah.
So.
But and also, regardless of the gender or the perceived gender of the voice, just having that style of speech be the voice of the story, in like a movie, for example, I think could work really well, because there is some, if it's done well, if it's written well and it's written artfully and it sounds true to the character, there's something very compelling about that kind of, because then you can find ways of saying a lot with just a few words. And as long as you do, and again, there's ways to screw that up too. You can push too far or overreach.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's ways to screw anything up, Steve.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't want to try too hard to make it say something profound at like an important moment. You wouldn't want to hit it too hard.
It's the Silent Bob phenomenon. It's like,
everything he says is so important,
profound, but you just don't say anything.
Yeah.
It's definitely a challenge to 580. Okay. We might need to start wrapping up.
You're yawning, so let's go ahead.
I'm yawning, and I still have that other video, which I think I'm going to try to just nail it and throw it up there and not have to worry about editing or anything like that. It's just relaxing.
So for next time,
we're going to finish the book, y'all.
Which will be 2 weeks from now. Read the rest of the book. It's chapters 6, 7, and 8. And we will finish it out. So that'll be not next Friday, but Friday after next, because next Friday is Ask Away. And so we'll finish the book next time. So read the rest of the book. Read the last 3 chapters, and that will be what we talk about. Do you have anything going up on your channel this weekend? When's our City Lights video going up?
I think City Lights is tomorrow.
Okay.
Because it's opposite Saturday 6, and Saturday 6 is not tomorrow because this is not Ask Away.
Because next week is Saturday 6, yeah.
Right. So Steve and Jason did an analysis and review and discussion of City Lights in the most recent Let Me Listen podcast for late seating.
For late seating, yeah.
And so since Steve and I did the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, And that seemed to go over
Da
pretty
da
well.
da 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 da
Da,
da
da,
da
da, 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 da.
da.
I actually have the song. Da, 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 da,
I
da, da.
picture you tap dancing as well as doing the jazz hands, or just like, maybe doing a
Yeah, but
little
I'm better
twirl
with
around.
better with my hands than I'm not real good with the feet moving. So yeah, so that's gonna be Friday after next. Tomorrow we watched City Lights together because the idea for the series that we're starting is something that we'd actually been doing theoretically for a while, which is we have a list of movies that we like the other person has not seen.
That's
So
right.
so this and we just watched them. This included some of my favorites. You'd already seen Clue, but
Yes.
Disney's Robin Hood, and we watched another Tom Cruise movie with not Uma Thurman,
Cameron
Cameron
Diaz.
Diaz.
Night and Day,
Um,
right? Yeah.
Night and
Yeah.
Day. Yes, I can never
Very,
remember. I'm just terrible with remembering titles of movies.
very, very, very fun movie. Really, really good
Yeah,
action movie.
gosh, so much.
Yeah.
You don't seem very happy to see me.
Yeah.
Not really. So many great moments. Did you drug me again? Well, you said we. No, he pinches her on the shoulder, and she's like, "Well, you said you didn't want me to drug you." So anyway, so we decided that we were going to go ahead and watch something together and do it on Zoom so that we could record it and then talk about it so that we could then share it. And City Lights is one of Steve's favorite movies, and because Steve and Jason had just done that for late seating, we decided we were going to start off with that. So that one's going to be on my channel tomorrow. And then the next one we're going to do is going to be the comedy action caper Get Smart, which will be on Steve's channel.
Sometime next month.
Yeah, sometime next month. And because we've had the list up for years now. Is it plural?
Probably close to 2 years now. Yeah, and we've watched several of yours. I think we've now watched, I think, 2 of mine, counting City Lights.
Yeah, counting City Lights because we watched
Horror of Dracula last year for Halloween. Yeah.
And that was it. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm not as much of a movie buff as you are, or excuse me, film.
You know.
Mine are y'all are gonna see. There's a distinct difference between.
Oh, I bet Dana chose this one.
Yeah, my movies are the fun ones, you guys.
We're watching Roadhouse at some point, so I mean, ain't nobody gonna mistake it for a film.
I'm a little bit bummed that we already watched Moulin Rouge because
Moulin Rouge would have been. I mean, we can't. I'm almost tempted to say let's watch it again and record it, but that would violate the rules of the show because we're supposed to have not seen the other person's movie.
Maybe we could do like a spin-off one time, like for April Fools or something.
Yeah, because
like an extra one.
Boy, did I hate Moulin Rouge.
And I didn't know. We just watched it, and he didn't say anything.
We watched the whole thing, and then you said, "So what'd you think?" And I think I almost started laughing, and I was like, "That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life." Like it was. I don't know if it could have been any. I don't know if it could have been any worse. So we're gonna the next one is gonna be Get Smart, and it's the Steve Carell and Hathaway one, right? The one from like 10 or 15 years ago.
And I should know who the dude is who plays like the boss, but I don't know. And it's also got The Rock, and it's got the guy who was who was Hero in Heroes.
Oh yes, I can't think of his name.
I can see
because I never watched Heroes either. So
oh, and I think it's got Terry Crews.
Wow,
I think
The
he's
Rock
one of the
and Terry Crews.
Boy. I know, it's a great cast. It's such a good cast, and they do such a good job, and it's so great. It's so so stinking great.
Terry Crews has done so much good work, and I watched every single episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he was brilliant in that. But for some reason, the Terry Crews part that I still remember most vividly is when he would do those Old Spice shaving cream commercials where he was like
Yes.
a little man, and there was one where there's a guy in a coma, and he wakes up from the coma, and he's got like a big coma beard, like a Santa beard that he's grown the entire time he's been in the coma. And he wakes up, and he's like, "Oh my God, what year is it?" And little tiny Terry Crews like grows up out of his beard with a razor like that's the size of him, and he says, "Say goodbye to this nasty beard." And the the guy in the coma says, "Was I in a coma?" And Terry Crews says, "I don't know. I'm not a doctor." And that is burned into my brain.
Okay, so 255 AD asked about Check
Yes.
Reluctantly. So
So
what are we doing next week? We're doing Hilda. We're
yes,
doing
this coming week, which will be Wednesday, August 3rd, will be Hilda, and then the week after that, which will be Wednesday, August 10th, that will be the next Deep Space Nine, and that will be the first part of um, Past Tense, which is the first of the episodes that 255 AD is referring to there, the Bell Riots episode. So
okay.
yeah, so not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that will be the next Deep Space Nine.
And then
So
there will be another Hilda episode, and then the
and
Wednesday
yeah,
after that.
right.
So the
Yeah.
next one would be the 24th.
Right. Yeah, because until we missed last week completely, the plan was to do 2 Deep Space Nines in a row because we planned to miss this week for the DC Public Library thing, but then
Which was so much
because
fun. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow.
yes, which was
That was
yeah,
really
that
cool.
went off really well, and it was great. But yeah, so that's the plan. So we'll be back together on Wednesday on this channel for Trek Reluctantly to watch Hilda. And then a week from tonight, I'll be back for Ask Away. And then a week from tomorrow, Dana will be back on her channel for Saturday 6. And also our City Lights video is up on Dana's channel
My channel
tomorrow.
Dun, dun, dun.
Tomorrow. So everybody watch that because I think that turned out really good. And we had
That's
a
really
very
good
fun,
because I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm also going to have to stay up and get stuff ready for the Saturday 6. I haven't even thought of what's going to go in there other than the thing from Wednesday. And then I'm like, oh,
you have a week.
That's because it hasn't even been a week yet.
You have a whole week.
I've got a week and then some. So yeah. Although I may do that, a little bit of that tomorrow, so that I'm not going into next week going, oh crap, I don't have anything. I haven't thought about it.
6 things. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually I think about it in the weekend in between. I take some of that time to just sort of think, okay, what is going on before I get too far? What has gone on that's been good? And I know I'm hoping one of the things that I talk about will be school. That will be one of the good things.
That's right, because where has summer vacation gone? Summer vacation is
it is now officially over because we are past the work day on Friday. I've got the weekend and I go back to school on Monday. So
well, damn.
255 AD we are not because we missed 2 weeks. We're going with Hilda next week and then
Deep Space Nine and then Hilda and then Deep Space Nine as usual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie.
That's like actually it's up there. That's the you can't you're not gonna be able to see it. On the boat. That's the name of the boat. C'est la vie.
C'est la vie. C'est la vie.
That's life. That's just the way it goes. All right. I'm singing. We better wrap this up.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see what everybody thinks about the end of the book.
Yeah.
I have the next one right over there from the library.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the end of the book.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do your homework. All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.